Is love real? Can you actually love somebody, or is it just something within your body and animalistic genetics that is driving you to feel a false sense of love when it is actually just either sexual attraction or some sort of emotional thing that you have no control over and is just, apparent in our biology? One of you guys recommended that I do this, and I thought it would be an awesome topic to talk about, so we're going to ramble about it. Now, we're going to be talking about two different types of love. Love in a romantic setting and love in a general setting for like your friends and family members and things of those sorts. I think the question for me was generally directed towards love in a romantic sense, but I'm going to answer for both because I think that there needs to be some sort of recognition of the separation and also similarities between the two. Now, in the romantic sense, I would say all relationships start at physical attraction. If you walk up to somebody, you have no idea whether or not you're going to find them attractive or be in love with them at some point outside of literally what they look like. And a lot of people will try and dispute this and say, oh, well, you can love somebody inside and out regardless of what they look like. And I agree on that. But before you even speak to somebody, the first thing that your brain is making an assumption on someone is off of what they look like, what their face looks like, what their body type is, what they dress like, how they present themselves, maybe even certain things like what they smell like. Do they make eye contact with you? Bodily things are what you're going to notice first. A better way to put it is all relationships romantically start off of lust or attraction to that individual in a physical sense, something that is animalistic and you have no value or capability to control over personality-wise. Like, you're not in love with their personality before you find them physically attractive first and foremost. Now, as you begin dating somebody or talking to them more, seeing them more, and becoming more romantically involved with one another, you can grow to genuinely love someone. I do believe that romantic love does exist. I've been dating my girlfriend for 3 years now, and I would say that I truly do love her outside of just an animalistic tendency. Now, what I mean by that is the connection you have with somebody at their core. The longer you're with somebody, the more they become a part of you. Everything that you self-identify with, some fraction of that becomes them. Now, obviously, you don't want your partner to control your personality or your life, but subconsciously, if you've been dating somebody or married somebody and been with them for years on end, more and more of you, up to a point, will become part of them, and vice versa. You will implant or implement part of yourself in them, and you're not even trying to do so. That's just what happens. You spend a very large portion of your day with one another. You talk to each other day-to-day basis, and you begin to enjoy their interests, and they begin to enjoy your interests, and vice versa. You pick up some of their habits, they pick up some of yours. You get to enjoy them at their core. That's what I would say love is, because you also need to recognize that people change, right? And a big part of love in a romantic setting is enjoying who that person is at their core, regardless of how they change over time. Now, that's why a lot of relationships fail, because you can fall in love with someone in a lust sense and also a romantic sense. And over 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 20 years, they become a person that you no longer associate, or vice versa. You become somebody that they don't like, or you just drift apart and you no longer match. That's why a lot of people get divorced, and that's why a lot of people don't work. Also, I believe because people don't actually mend well and they think that it's love, but it's actually lust. We'll get into that in a minute. Love is something that supersedes change. It is a connection that you have with an individual where, regardless of who they are, you still find them attractive. And what's fascinating about that is once that starts, if it's working, it will never stop. Whereas when you end up meeting somebody, say you've known somebody for 5, 6, 7 years, for the first 3 years that you knew them, you might not have found them romantically or physically attractive at all. A lot of people start out as friends and end up becoming boyfriend and girlfriend later, or vice versa, boyfriend, whatever it may be, right? Even in certain movies or shows, you see that happen. And that's not something that's just, a movie trope that they end up putting in and implementing into a movie for no reason. Like in the show Friends, if you've seen the show Friends, a lot of the people in that show start out as friends and end up getting married or dating. And, it sometimes doesn't work and it sometimes does, but you may not find somebody attractive and end up liking them later on. And then once that hits and they're a part of you and you find their core, it stays. And it's really hard to explain. And I feel like I'm putting it in very rough and shitty terms. But if you've ever been in love with someone, you will get it, in the sense that when I look at my girlfriend, Brooke, and we hang out or we're talking on a day-to-day basis, we're not the same people we were when we started dating. But I still find her at her core fascinating. I love her, and I will, in my mind, at least what I think right now, I will always love her regardless of how she changes in the future. Now, some people can change and become horrible human beings, and that's a different thing. But in general relationship settings, minute changes over time won't bother you, because you and that person will change together. Because you are in part them and they are in part you, you as a whole, as a group, will go through life together in a parallel. Rather than clashing with one another, you will kind of glide together through life. That sounds stupid and cliche, and I know the whole video is going to be that because I'm talking about fucking love. But yeah. Now, in a friendship or romantic setting, just love in general, whether it be for a family member, a friend, a partner, you have that connection to where that person becomes a part of you. It is why you feel distraught when you break up with your girlfriend or your boyfriend. It's why you feel distraught when somebody that in your family dies. It's why you feel distraught when you're no longer friends with somebody. Even if you drift apart and end up hating each other over time, you still miss that individual that they were. You loved that person for who they were. Maybe not who they are, but you still have some sort of attachment in your own consciousness and personality to them in the past, current, or future tense. When somebody that you love, whether it be a friend, partner, family member, either dies or drifts apart from you, you feel that sense of mourning, even if they're not dead, because they're absent. A part of them is gone in your brain and in your mind, in your being, and you need that time to heal that fraction of you over that is now gone. It'd be like if I just fucking ripped your arm off. That's what it feels like, right? Like you're a gecko and you have to fucking regrow your limbs. Now, I used to watch the show Rick and Morty. And in the show Rick and Morty, Rick, who is, you know, this fucking super genius that has basically transcended reality and conquered the universe, thinks that love is just an animalistic tendency that drives people to fucking reproduce. Putting it bluntly, that's basically what he says. I'm just kind of paraphrasing. But I used to lean into that when I was younger and just go, oh yeah, no, love is fake. But when you have somebody that you genuinely lose, in a mourning sense, whether it be somebody that, you know, leaves in a relationship, or specifically death, if you have somebody in your family that dies, or even a loved one that dies, whether it be romantically or, you know, friendship, family-wise, when you have that gut-wrenching feeling that something is missing and there's nothing that you can do about it, it sucks, right? And it's also selfish, because a lot of mourning is missing that part of them that gave you happiness in life, right? You miss having them around because having them around made you happy. And that's selfish to think, but it's also beautiful to know that that person affected you in that way. And you are that sad that they're gone because a part of them lived in you. A part of them was you. And while they're gone and you're mourning that kind of, you know, some would say selfishly, or in the Rick and Morty sense, it's still beautiful to know that you and them had that deep-rooted connection to where they made a genuinely everlasting change in your consciousness. I also want to make a side note, too, that there's a difference between love and obsession. And obsession is love entirely one-sided. When somebody is overly loving of one individual and not feeling that reciprocation in return. And that can be bad for obvious reasons, but also because you're making that person too much of you. They're only, say if you're a fucking pie chart and this is you and you're a little circle, right? No definitive percentage needs to be of another person. But when you're obsessed with somebody, you're letting that person take up a lot of who you are. And you have to remember that you're your own individual. You shape who you are. You're your own person living your own life. And while you want your friends and your family members and those that you have romantic interest in to affect you in some way where they become a part of you, you still want that pie chart to be mostly you. And you'll notice that generally obsession is, somebody, attaching to an individual and making them a very large portion of themselves in a pie chart is usually in the romantic sense. You don't usually see obsession in friendships and family members as much as you would somebody that is genuinely attracted in love with somebody, like stalkers or people that are, just bad relationship romantic partners and get really obsessive and creepy. You've seen those things, whether it's not something that you've gone through or your friend or your family member. You've seen it. It happens. And I don't want to have any sort of, sympathy for that individual, but you can recognize that they're overstepping that boundary to where that relationship is so disproportionate, where they're literally making that person a part of them. And now because of that, they physically cannot lose that individual or they'll feel like they're dying. And so they become creepy, stalkery, obsessed. And that's also a thing in parasocial relationships as well online, where people get obsessed with BTS members or just social media influencers, YouTubers, fucking Hollywood stars, anything. Love is strongest when you both lean on each other equally. And not every relationship you're going to have is equal in love, right? You're probably going to lean on your parents a lot more than they're going to lean on you. In terms of, love, right? You're going to have that level of need for them more than they will of you. But that'll switch. As you grow older, you begin to take care of your parents, and that's kind of a responsibility that you have to have as long as your parents, are still living and you're okay and you're able to take care of them. That's usually a responsibility that's transferred to you. Your parents help you grow and keep you alive. And then in their last, years or decades of their life, you try to help them more. In a relationship, though, in a romantic sense, you generally want to lean on each other equally. And that doesn't mean you have to lean on each other equally in the sense of responsibilities or tasks, but in general, right? I would say I lean on my girlfriend a lot emotionally. I go to my girlfriend a lot more than she does to me. Because I'm a guy, right? I don't rant to my friends about my emotions a lot as much as I do my girlfriend. I tell her more in that sense than she does for me. Me and her kind of rant equally emotionally, but she also has other outlets in that sense. Now, vice versa, she may come to me for other specific things where it ends up evening out and we're 50-50 in that relationship. And that's what you need, right? Also, side note, little advice for people in relationships. Arguments happen. You can still love somebody and disagree with them. You just have to have a respect for that individual and recognize that there has to be, number one, compromise and also validity in their emotions. A big problem that I had and still have sometimes with Brooke and just in general is when somebody has a problem and they're in a relationship, usually a guy, this is stereotyping, but I'm just going to say in my own experience, this is what I've seen of my friends, this is what I've seen of myself and many men that date women. Guys want to fix problems. They don't want to hear out emotions. Women want to be heard. And it's hard to do that sometimes. It sounds simple, but it's hard. Listen to your fucking girlfriend. When they're upset with you, sometimes they just want to fucking rant to you about why they're upset and why you piss them off. Not something that you need to fix. Sometimes there's no solution. They just want to be able to fucking rant to you and go, this upset me, whether it's with you or something else, this upset me, and you have to comfort them in that sense. Guys are inherently driven to fix problems. And so you're like, okay, well, why don't you do this? And it disregards how they feel because you're shutting down how they feel and saying, just do this. They don't want to hear that. They want you to be there for them and how they feel. And sometimes guys want that as well. And that's not in every relationship. That's just kind of what I've witnessed personally, but it's something that I've had to work on in my own relationships where I'm always, let me fix it, right? How can I fix this problem? And sometimes there is no solution. There should just be comforting and care for that individual. And it's something that you'll learn. And I think a lot of guys fail at that at young ages. I failed at it when I was in high school. I failed at it even sometimes a lot of the time when I started dating Brooke. And even, here and there now, you have to constantly remind yourself, to just be there for them in the emotional sense. Now that was, sorry for that side rant. I usually like write out what the fuck I'm going to say for these videos because I just want to have like an outline, like I'm kind of writing an essay. That was just a full side rant. But yeah, care about your girlfriend or boyfriend, right? Be there for them emotionally. It's not always about fixing their problems. Sometimes it's just about hearing and listening to them. Love is also an active thing, I would say. There's like a flux of, effort put into it. I don't want to say you have to try to love someone. You just actively love somebody, but because you love them, you try. And so I don't want to say, if you're not seeing that in your relationship, that's a problem, but you got to put in that fucking effort. And if you're not seeing that effort from somebody, that love and that leaning on one another might be disproportionate. And that's something that usually there needs to be a conversation for. And that's why a lot of relationships fail. That's why I think it's like 1 in 3 people in the United States that get married end up getting divorced. It's not uncommon. I come from a divorced family. I would say probably half the people fucking watching this come from a divorced family. It's not special to be, it used to be 50 years ago. If your parents were divorced, that was a big, fuck, oh, that's bad. Now it doesn't even matter. If you talked about how your parents were divorced in a college application, they would not give a fuck. That doesn't make you special. I have divorced parents. You have divorced parents. Everybody has fucking divorced parents. Because those relationships fucking crack. They don't work together in the way that they need to. They drift apart. They don't lean on each other efficiently. They don't hear each other out. There's a million reasons relationships can fail. And the best way that you can prevent that is having that love for somebody and putting in that fucking effort. If you try and you both continue to try, most of the time, I would say 99% of the time, it won't end. There might be, slumps and peaks, but at the end of the day, you still hold that love for each other. Another side rant with the whole leaning on thing, you can love animals as well, like your dog. Like I love my dog Daisy, and I think Daisy loves me. But there's also a disproportionate value in the terms of leaning on them and them leaning on you, because you can go to your dog for emotional support or fun, playtime. Your dog relies on you entirely. Their whole fucking life is you. Your dog will love you and need you for survival in an animalistic sense more than you will ever need them. That is why I always say cherish your time with your animals as well. Not because I don't think you love them enough, but also because they are obsessed with you. Your dog, unless it's a fucking piece of shit, is probably obsessed with you. My dog cries every time I see her after an hour of being gone. She fucking freaks out. They have no sense of time, and they feel like you're gone based off scent. That's usually a little, side fun fact. Dogs have bad perception of time. They usually gauge how long you've been gone based on how strong your scent is. And so the longer it lingers, the less they feel that you've been gone. So if you've been gone for like an hour, there is actually, they've done experiments on this, a scientific difference in a dog's brain for how long they miss you. And so if you've been gone for an hour, they haven't really felt that big of a time difference because they still smell you everywhere. But if you've been gone for a day or a week, that's a long fucking time. But then even if you've been gone for 6 months or a year, in their brain, that might honestly just be the same amount of fucking time. They also have their own like circadian rhythm, and they understand how long you've been gone based off like, hey, how full is my bladder? How much do I have to eat? How much have I drank? Has it been night or day? They can recognize those things as well. I don't know why I'm ranting about this. Anyways, in short, love is real. I think it could be mistaken for lust a lot, and that's something that you need to watch for. And a lot of people fail to see in relationships, because having sexual attraction to somebody and having physical attraction to somebody can a lot of the time be seen as genuine love, when in reality it's kind of like a drug that's thinning out. Not saying that you'll never be lustful for your partner, more so that you can't rely on a relationship solely off of lust. You need that love, because when those things arise and you have either arguments that you have to work through, problems you have to do, places you have to be for them, you're going to sacrifice time. Time you will never get back. And you want to spend that time accordingly. And somebody that you have lust for, you're not really going to want to spend much time on them comparatively to somebody that you love. because you're going to put out more time for them because you care about them and you genuinely enjoy seeing them happy. And even if you're not receiving something in return where you would be in lust, you don't care when you love somebody. And I think that's what really matters, is putting yourself first in life, but also putting them in a very close fucking second. Like, and in certain situations, putting them first. Like, you have to sacrifice time and sacrifice a lot of effort for somebody that you love. It's not easy to love somebody, but when you do, you'll really know it. And yeah, that's for romance. For friendships, it's a lot easier. Like in my sense, like my guy friend group, like I love my friends. And when you get drunk, guys usually are like, dude, I fucking love you, bro. And it's like the first time you've ever fucking told them that, because you don't really say that to your fucking friends. Unless it's like, for guys at least, in like a really sad setting, or if you're drunk or something. And it's easy to love your friends, but it's different. You have an equal, I would say for a romantic relationship, you lean on each other 50-50. For a friendship love relationship, it's like 10%, 10%, 20%, 20%. You're not like there all the time. You still care about them. You sacrifice your time for them. You go to their events. You know, you put out time for your friends, even if you don't want to in certain points. But it's not nearly as much as, I would say, family, and then romance too. Like, family is a big thing. I think that also depends on culture too, how much you really care about your family. I think in most people, you really put out for your, parents, your siblings, close family. But depending on culture, you might even be really close to your fucking third cousins. You might know them and really treat them as if they are direct family members, even if they are borderline just distant friends. So yeah, it's complex. I don't know if I really answered the question that somebody asked. They just wanted to get me to rant about, is love real? And I would say, yeah, end of story. But, leave in the comments what else you want me to rant about. This was a fun rant for me to do. I got really off topic, but yeah, I'll catch you all in the next one.